Well, I'd have been more comfortable with the plan if you didn't decide to go off book and tell those two my entire life story.
I needed them to understand you. You're not a deranged lunatic. You're a good man who struggled his whole life against odds that they can't even imagine. Now stop being such a whiny bitch and drink your sangria. Nothing the conscious mind can think up will ever satisfy the unconscious. It has to originate from the unconscious to be cleared. After hearing so many of Stan's stories, it was time for me to find out what shadows were lurking in my unconscious. Would they be as dark as what Stan had seen? And if so, would I have the courage to confront them? Rule number 1, never do this alone. The sitter is there to keep you safe, ground you, and more importantly, to hold the space so that you can completely open to whatever comes.
자, 거리를 보는 거죠, 거리를.
Calculer la distance. L'important, c'est surveiller la distance.
자, 여기서 빡빡 이렇게.
Something evolutionary has happened. That the work that I started is not about just fixing people and making people not have phobias and making psychotics leave the hospital and go sell insurance. You know, there's more to it than that. Because for the first time in the history of the planet, we can think about thinking.
I am Avatar Kuruk. When I was young, I was always a go with the flow kind of avatar. People seemed to work out their own problems, and there was peace and good times in the world. But then, I lost the woman I loved to Ko, the face stealer. It was my fault. If I had been more attentive and more active, I could have saved her. Aang, you must actively shape your own destiny and the destiny of the world.
He described that there was 3 kinds of learnings. There's where you learn to identify, where you learn to generalize, and then he said there was learning 3, where you literally learned to learn things.
He's sitting there, shitting and vomiting at the same time, and the poor little fella, because he's 4, his brain doesn't compute that this won't go on forever. He actually looked at me shitting and vomiting, he looks at me and he goes, I guess this is me now!
The Institute of Heart Math has shown that generating sustained positive emotions facilitates a body-wide shift to a specific scientifically measurable state called psychophysiological coherence. Let's break this down. Psycho comes from psychological, which means mental and emotions, and physiological means body. Coherence is systematic or logical connection or harmony. Altogether, it means a harmony of both body, mind, and emotional functions. If you're familiar with the 4 elements, you know that earth is the physical, so body, air is mental, mind, water is emotions, and fire is spirit.
But eventually, you take a look, this one is mean nothing. Chinese call Wu. These are fire. You'd be amazed to you, right? Why ancient time Chinese create the meaning say no fire? The Qi means no fire. How can it be?
Do you have any idea what his life is like in the waking world?
Humans cannot live in dreams. As long as he stayed there, the child had no life, nor the chance for one.
The boy is being abused. He's suffering.
You abused that suffering. to build a dreaming you could rule.
I had no wish to rule. I merely wished to be a dream and not a nightmare. To inspire rather than to frighten.
The choice is not yours to make. We do not choose to be created, nor do we choose how we are made.
That is true. But we can change.
No.
Yeah, I will. Wait, what? What'd she say? Oh, I never listened to her. Now it's biting me in the ass.
We are at the state now where you can make the kinds of decisions that were never available to people. You can literally plan to not be a neurological robot. And that has not existed before. People were at the mercy of their upbringings and their environments. We are not anymore.
And thus he has stumbled upon the first of his natural enemies, fear. A terrible enemy, treacherous and difficult to overcome. It remains concealed at every turn of the way, prowling, waiting, and if the man, terrified in its presence, runs away, his enemy will have put an end to his quest. What will happen to the man if he runs away in fear? Nothing happens to him except that he will never learn. He will never become a man of knowledge. He will perhaps be a bully or a harmless, scared man. At any rate, he will be a defeated man. His first enemy will have put an end to his cravings.
I will give you this for the $1.41 in your pocket.
Wait, how could you know?
A psychic once told me that I'm psychic.
Das Fangen des Ochsen. Entschlossen ergreift der Hirte das Leitseil des Ochsen. Doch nur mit Mühe hält er ihn fest. Der Ochs ist noch immer zu wild, zu ungestüm seine Kraft. Bald stürmt er hinauf ins Hochland, bald trabt er in die Schluchten voll Nebel und Dunst, um sich dort zu verstecken.
No, wait, back up. Let me start earlier. For 6 months, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. With insomnia, nothing's real. Everything's far away. Everything's a copy of a copy of a copy.
And what can he do to overcome fear? The answer is very simple. He must not run away. He must defy his fear, and in spite of it, he must take the next step in learning, and the next, and the next. He must be fully afraid, and yet he must not stop. That is the rule. And the moment will come when his first enemy retreats. But won't the man be afraid again if something new happens to him? No. Once a man has vanquished fear, he's free from it for the rest of his life. Because instead of fear, he's acquired clarity, a clarity of mind which erases fear. By then, a man knows his desires. He knows how to satisfy those desires. He can anticipate the new steps of learning, and a sharp clarity surrounds everything. The man feels that nothing is concealed. And thus he has encountered his second enemy, clarity.
Once one accepts the original outcome and stops trying to run from it, the loop will stop. This Jutsu guides you toward accepting your fate, instead of relying on Jutsu to change it. A Jutsu with an escape is too dangerous to use in combat. That is why the Izanami is a forbidden Jutsu. If Kabuto stops trying to transform himself, then he'll be able to bring the loop to an end.
one song to listen to for the rest of your life, what is it?
The sound of silence.
Once one accepts the original outcome and stops trying to run from it, the loop will stop.